Well, hey there, you're on the internet, this is how I spend my free time, and welcome to the Triple N Network, where all you newbie nib nerds can find all the news you'll need. Let's look at an ink today, shall we? Now, today's ink, I only have in sample form. Ooh, come on, focus. It's by Noodlers. It's part of their V-Mail series, North African Violet. So it's purple ink. And admittedly, I'm not terribly familiar with violets, but it really reminds me of the lilacs that used to grow outside of our classrooms where I went to college. So that's the color it really evokes for me. It's sort of a light purple. It's, I don't know, it just hints at blue, but it's definitely a purple. So all the tests were done in this MonteVerde Impressa, which has seen better days because it went through the washer and then the dryer. It has a 1.1 millimeter stub. Let's check out the chromatography, which was interesting. Now, I put this little arrow here because so I put the drop of ink, and then I put it in water, and then usually the water pushes the ink up, and I put that arrow there to show where the water stopped, because the water went all the way to here, but almost no ink moved. I mean, there was a little bit, but that was it. I don't think I've ever seen an ink do this before. And I mean, I always do this the same way. You know, I put a drop of ink, instantly put it in the water, and boom. But it didn't move. So there's definitely potential for water resistance, so let's check it out. Starting from the top down in density, Clairefontaine 90 grams per square meter. Come on, camera. There we go. Great shading. Fantastic shading. I think it really came through, and I think the stub really highlighted that. Like there. I think that went pretty well. 14 seconds to dry. Really not bad. Good flow, not overly wet. I would say that it's like right in the medium. Like if 1 is dry as a bone, 10 is ink cannon, it's a 5. Look at that. I mean, there's almost no difference. I mean, here you can see just through there's like a line where it's slightly lighter. That's from me rubbing the water in. This ink just did not move, and it didn't change color. It stayed this bright purple. So, yeah. Next is Rhodia, 80 grams per square meter. 12 seconds to dry. Camera's still being weird. And again, great shading. I think it came through really well. Yeah, I said dries a bit lighter and more bluish. It has more of a, like a, you know, because purple is blue and red. When it's wet, it seems to lean slightly more red to a more genuine middle purple. And then dry to sort of a slightly bluer purple. But, yeah, look at that water test. Again, very little difference. And it's really there. I mean, it dyed the paper a little bit, like, right there, but pretty much nowhere else. No bleed through on either. And I said there might be some potential for show through, but I don't really think it's that bad. Next is Tomoe River Paper, where I feel like it got just a little bit lighter, but not much. 13 seconds to dry, so yeah, that's pretty average. Great shading. Love the shading in this. I mean, that looks great. Yeah, I said I think the stub really highlights the contrast, but I mean, this is Tomoe River Paper. This paper loves to let ink just slide away as soon as you add more water. But look, that is so there. I mean, I don't even think that's smearing. I think that's just dyeing the page just a little bit, but still, that's so there. It's really not bad. Now, this is that new 20-pound copier paper that I liberated from my parents' copier, which is 100% recycled and that you buy at the pharmacy, and it's super cheap and terrible. So 2.5 seconds to dry. But even still, there's bleed and there's echo, but it's not terrible. And then look at the water test. It didn't explode, it didn't feather, it didn't dye the page. And if you've seen any other test using this cheapo paper, this is actually fairly impressive, which will be demonstrated here in the cheapest papers, like Mead Notebook Paper. Now, I want you to take a look at this. There's some slight woolliness. There's the odd feather here and there. There's even still touches of shading in the odd place. But I said comparatively little bleed, feather, some spread, but really not that much. It's, hints of shading. Oddly longer than average dry time. Here on this paper, that is a bit long, but God, look at that water test. Look at how clear that is. I mean, that looks almost the same. And look at that. When was the last time we saw this little bleed on Mead paper with a specialty ink, and in a stub? I mean, and a broad stub, I'm extremely impressed. And even more impressed when we get to Moleskine notebook paper. 8 seconds to dry, which is oddly long. But even though there's some feathering, which you can see, it's really not that bad. And there's still shading. You still see some shading. And look at that water test. It's fantastic. And look at that. That's echo. That's not even bleed. You can tell because when I added the water, it didn't get through to the other side. It just sort of sank deeper into the paper. And again, this is a 1.1 stub. And this is one of those Noodler specialty inks. I mean, I gotta say, I am deeply impressed with North African Violet. I honestly don't know if I can say I've seen another ink perform like this one has. I would say that I was going to buy a bottle, but honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of purple. But if I were going to buy a purple ink, it would be this one. It's extremely impressed me. So, for your consideration from the Triple N Network, Noodler's North African Violet. If you'd like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching. Bye.